Hey everybody, this is Jacob with Mortgage Coach Software Support. Wanted to give you a quick walkthrough on the first few tabs of Edge. I'm going to be breaking the training into several different parts here, but today I'm going to start on the clients, the goals, and the assumptions tabs. So first things first, obviously you start on your home screen, but to get a new client in here when you're on the phone with your client, you would hit New Client, or if you're talking to a partner, you'd hit New Partner. Now they're going to give you different screen layouts here, so I'm going to start with a new client for now. Now one of the first things you see here is you've got to get the client's name and home phone number. We're not asking for a whole lot of other contact information because we're going to be asking for it a bit later in our wizard here. But make sure and get at least this information. You want to find out, obviously, if they're a client or a prospect. You'll know that before you even talk to them. But does he or she rent or own? This actually determines a couple of things in your reports. If you choose rent, it's not going to ask for your client's current mortgage. If you choose own, it will ask for a client's current mortgage. So make sure and select those accordingly. Now in this case I've said the client owns, and we can actually choose the different goals for this client, whether they want to support their retirement, so on and so forth, lower their interest rate. I'm going to choose reduce my payment, and I'm going to say I want to reduce his payment by at least $200 here. Now important to note that this is really more for your notes than anything else, so you want to take good notes here. You can also type in on the right hand side here, you know, client was in the Navy, whatever you'd like to put in here. Now this actually won't show up on your report, so this is the stuff that's just going to be for your notes. On the left here is really so that you can tabulate things so that you can develop this conversation with your client. Now the following screen is going to ask you about your current payment, so the current mortgage for your client here. We want to know what the current monthly payment is. And again, this is a note for you. This is not going to transfer straight to the report here. This is what the client's going to tell you over the phone. So you may find it's a little bit different because of the PITI. They may have a full payment with escrows. There might be other things going on, but you want to get their input first here. And we're going to go ahead and calculate the rest out when we get a little further in. Current property value. Make sure and put this in here because this is going to determine your equity when you go into your product screens a little bit later. Now you have a Fannie and a Freddie lookup. These will just basically allow you to look up whether this particular borrower has a Fannie or a Freddie loan. But your next screen here, when you hit the next button, asks you for the current mortgage information. So we've got to enter a few things here. One of them, and it's pretty important, is a current mortgage. You've got to have their first payment date. You need to know when their first payment happens so that you can tell how far into the loan they are and how far they have left. So make sure and select a date here. I'm going to go ahead and select a different date. I'll select the second. Now one of the things that Edge does for you is once you start populating figures in here, it'll actually calculate your remaining balance for you. Now I already had figures in here, so I'm going to type new ones in. So I'm going to say their original balance was $240, and you can see that as long as I have my interest rate and my term, it'll calculate a new remaining balance for me. Now this remaining balance, of course, if you've got a credit report in front of you or you've got a mortgage statement, you'll know what it is. So you can actually type this in manually if it's different from what you're seeing above. So let's say they've paid it down a little bit. Now loan type, you can choose fixed or ARM. Now if you do choose ARM, there's going to be some extra parameters you'll have to fill out. Things like all the caps need to be entered there so you can predict the future adjustments at least as accurately and compliant as possible. But we'll get into an ARM video a little bit later. For this one I'm going to do a fixed. If this has an interest-only period, make sure and put the interest-only months. If this was a 10-year interest-only period, for instance, I would put 120 months here. If there was a balloon, you could enter that information as well. And then a little bit further here, we want to know what they're paying for the hazard insurance, HOA dues, and so forth. And these can be entered either as dollar figures, or if you want to enter them as factor percentages, hit the percentage sign here, then go ahead and enter them. Once you tab off the field, it'll automatically update for you. Same thing goes for mortgage insurance. If they do have mortgage insurance and you want to enter it as a percentage, pop it in here. It'll automatically calculate it for you. You can determine whether it's specified to cut off by a certain LTV or by a certain time in the case of FHA loans. I'm going to go ahead and zero that out because this one wouldn't have it. However, if I wanted to put a second lien on this one, we just finished doing the first lien. If I wanted to put a second lien on this, I would hit the yes key here, then hit next. And it's actually going to open up another set of screens for me. So I'm going to check my, whenever this most recent loan came out here, let's say they opened this last year and it was a HELOC and they took it out for $30,000. And since it's a HELOC, they probably haven't paid anything down on it yet. It's an interest only, so I'm going to keep it at $30,000 for now. Let's say they got this one at a 5.5 rate, and let's say it was a 300-month term. Now, for a HELOC tied to prime, this is kind of one of the new advancements here in Edge. You can choose ARM, and then when you go to ARM details, you can actually tie this to prime. So, for instance, if I wanted to say this was prime plus 1, I would select my index. I'll go down the list here until I find prime. Prime plus 1 would be a 1% margin. So you would enter this you'd enter this information here. The scenario is really not too important here. It's just going to adjust at index plus margin, so there's going to be no huge jumps or anything. So you just have to hit OK here, and that one's good to go. But remember, on a HELOC, it is interest only. So put in for this particular one, 300 months is the term. I'm going to put the same amount for my interest only months. Now when I'm done with that, the next screen is going to take me over to some affordability questions. Just a little bit more information you want to grasp from your customer before you go on into the products. You want to find out what they're capable of, what kind of debts they have, what's going on in the background, what's prompting them to make this decision. Now if you're going to be showing tax benefit on your reports, make sure, find their tax bracket for them. If you don't know it, or if they don't know it, find it out for them. You can use this button. It'll take you to the IRS site that will tell you what it is. Once you finish the affordability, you're going to jump over into the products section. Now there's going to be another video on how to complete all the products, so look for that coming next. But this is the one for going from client to affordability. This is taking the original loan app, probably the first 3 minutes of your conversation, maybe a little bit less. You'll learn to cruise through it a little bit faster. But look for more videos. If you have any questions, feel free to email support@mortgagecoach.com. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.